In what I would consider to be a supreme irony, the co-founder of a ReOpen group, ReOpen Maryland, has tested positive for COVID-19. Because of course he did. Now, this is Tim Walters, right? Tim Walters is actually a two-time Republican candidate for the General Assembly, and also, again, is a co-founder to the group ReOpen Maryland. Explained in a series of Facebook videos that he has COVID-19. In fact, here's what he said. I was diagnosed yesterday at the ER with COVID-19, and here I am months after not wearing masks at rallies, churches, and so on. And so it's funny how capricious this thing is. Yeah, no kidding, man. If only there were people out there saying how bad this virus is from the start, and that maybe people should wear masks and do some physical distancing. Maybe that would help. Oh, right. So now Walters is also known for helping organize protests in Annapolis and elsewhere against the shutdown orders implemented by Governor Larry Hogan, who later on, of course, bowed to the pressure and began to open up, as some of these governors have, these Republican governors specifically. So, look, let me just say that I'm not happy about this. All right. It may seem like it, like, oh, you're doing a little bit victory lap because this guy got coronavirus. No, here's the thing. I don't want anybody to get coronavirus. It's not a victory lap. It's a warning. Like, I can understand if people want to open up the economy. I get it, right? Because people are economically hurting and the states aren't exactly getting help from the federal government, right? And so I understand people worried about the economy, right? But these groups, I mean, what you're going to have is more economic distress later on. And again, part of that is because the federal government has been doing a really, really terrible job of supporting people. I mean, look, understand, like, and this is a good argument, right? The federal government, I mean, if they, expect people to shut down and then not help them, or these states to shut down and these businesses to shut down, people to lose their jobs, and the government doesn't help them, well, of course, you're going to have a lot of people that are very angry and want to reopen up. And I get that. And that's a fair argument. That is why government should have actually did a UBI instead of a one-time $1,200 coronavirus check. But I don't think this is where Tim Walters, the direction that he's coming from. It's more of like a government, get off my boot, stop telling me what to do, all that stuff. So, your typical conservatism, right? So now, understand, like, why I'm giving you this warning and why I'm even doing this story. It's because there are people like this that we have warned for months. Hey, wear a mask. Do some physical distancing, right? And, help flatten the curve. Slow the spread of the virus. And people like him are like, no, not only am I going to push to reopen, right? But I'm also going to go around and I'm going to go into close proximity with other people. I'm not going to wear a mask. And I'm not going to physically distance. And then, surprise, surprise, shock of all ages, he's now going to announce that he has coronavirus. And the thing is, people like this are at risk. Walters is 53, right? He's got diabetes, and he admits that he has maintained or has not maintained good health habits since leaving the U.S. Navy. So that puts him at very high risk for serious symptoms, right? These symptoms of COVID-19 could involve eventually a trip to the ICU or worse, getting put on a ventilator. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm saying it definitely is a bigger possibility given the fact that he has a pre-existing condition, diabetes specifically, right? Those are the people that are labeled to be high risk. And so it's ironic when he says this, quote, I just want to educate people. Don't live in fear. Chances are everyone is going to get this. So that's how he finished that off, right? So look, yes, educating people is good, but then saying, well, don't live in fear. Okay, look, I get it. I don't want to live in fear, right? I don't live in fear. You shouldn't live in fear. But what you shouldn't live in also is ignorance, right? And fear and ignorance tend to go hand in hand. That's why you got to learn as much as you can about the virus, how it spreads, and like what you can do to protect yourself against it. And it turns out, according to studies, that masks are basically at this point the most effective way of protecting yourself and your family against coronavirus. If everybody wears a mask, the the main route of transmission of the virus is stopped. And so wearing a mask, if everybody does it, then it's a lot better, especially if they also keep a 6 foot distance inside of many establishments, right? And so now he also says chances are that everybody's going to get this. Well, yeah, that's because there are people like you. And it's not like me being mean about that. That's just a statement of fact. Because for months, this guy ran around spreading this possibly to everybody and didn't really think about it. Didn't think twice. Didn't take it seriously. So yeah, he's probably right. Most people will get it because there are people like this that exist. And so now Walter's wife and his family members have been tested for the virus, and that's smart. And I hope they weren't exposed. And if they are, that they recover. Obviously, because I'm not a monster, right? I'm not a monstrous person. I want people to not get the virus in the first place. That would be nice. But anybody who does, I don't wish, a ventilator on anybody having to use it, right? Now, he also encouraged anyone else who would come into contact with him in recent weeks to pay attention to possible symptoms. Again, that's smart, right? So where I disagree with him on this is when he says that he will not provide information to the public health officials for use in contact tracing. He says, I will not share anybody's information with the government. I will not do it. Come on, man. Look, I get it, right? You're a anti-government conservative. I get it. Of course, you don't want to share anything with the government. Look, I have issues with my own privacy and sharing information with the government. Surprise, surprise, right? I'm a progressive. Progressive doesn't mean I love government and I want it intruding upon my life. No, I mean, you could think of me as a little bit of a libertarian socialist, a little bit, since I've got those tendencies, even though I'm a little bit more social democrat than anything. It's like, and basically what that means is government should kind of stay out of regulating my life, except when it comes to, I shouldn't say except when it comes to, but I also want it to help people, right? I want the government to play a role in helping people. Like, I don't want them involved in abortion, right? That's why I'm pro-choice. I don't want them involved in, doing drugs and whatever that. But I do want everybody to get healthcare. I want everybody to get a college education without going into massive amounts of debt. And so that's kind of the difference, right? And so I don't want my private information being shared with the government. So I get that, right? Except that in the situation that we live in right now, everything's shared with the government. If you post on Facebook those videos, well, guess what? The government can see those. If you post on Facebook, there's a good chance the government can share that, Facebook will share that information with the government, right? Same thing with emails, right? Use an email, you send an email, guess what? The government probably knows what's in it. I mean, remember, guys, Snowden had basically unmasked a gigantic government spying program on its own citizens. They had been vacuuming up just about everybody's metadata. And so they've got information on all of us. And also, the government knows where everybody lives, where they work, their names, social security numbers, obviously, because of, taxes. And so the government already knows all this stuff. You're not really giving them anything new about you that they didn't already know, except information about who you were in contact with and who you could have given coronavirus to. And that is information that I think the government needs to know in order to help combat this virus. Again, contact tracing and quarantining are other, basically the most effective ways, along with not getting the virus from, or not spreading the virus from wearing masks and doing physical distancing, is the other best ways of fighting this virus. And like, look, I know you can't be compelled to do it, right? And I'm actually really uncomfortable with enforcement of like masks and physical distancing requirements, because it seems like police will use that to justify, bullying minorities, as they tend to do. And so I'm uncomfortable with the enforcement parts of this. So really, I think it comes down to the individual, unfortunately, to try to make the right choice in saying, I actually care about not just myself, my own health, but the health of my community. And so I am deciding to wear a mask. That involves empathy, unfortunately. And you have to have enough empathy to do your part as an American to try to stop this virus, which is killing Americans. So you gotta have to remember that. Over 120,000 people are dead. So, I mean, this guy said for himself, this is capricious, right? Doesn't care about you or your political affiliation or your distrust of the government. It does not give a shit. You are simply a tool, a body to use to infect others. That's what you are to this virus. So, my opinion, be smart, get some goddamn empathy, wear a mask, do the right thing, do the contact tracing, and do your part in order to stop this virus. That's the only way we can, ironically, reopen safely as well, and reopen sooner, is if we actually put a stop to this virus. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.